just start the recording. Uh, yeah, can I have a quick introduction being done first for you and Ashoka, and then you start off?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, good morning, all the parents. Thank you so much for coming for this interactive webinar with Ashoka University. And very happy to have Harshita again. She very readily said yes last year. She also agreed to do this year with us. So, thank you so much, Harshita, for taking the time out for this open free flow webinar. Just a little bit of background about Harshita. She is the deputy manager at Ashoka. Extremely helpful on all fronts. She's an MBA graduate with 6 years of diverse experience across IT, sales, interiors, business management, and education. And her entire professional journey essentially reflects her versatility and adaptability. And she's worked in diverse industries and has managed roles that combine creativity, strategy, and relationship building. At Ashoka, she plays a key role in outreach and engagement, connecting students with transformative academic opportunities. Harshita brings a blend of corporate insight, creative perspective, making her sessions engaging, relatable, and deeply practical for students navigating their own career paths. So, thank you, Harshita. Welcome to this EduPathways interactive parent webinar. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Now that you have introduced me with such a long introduction, I think I hope that I answer all the queries of the parents that we have today. And I'll just start off with a quick introduction about Ashoka, and we'll keep it more towards the parents' end in terms of whatever questions, queries they have. So, predominantly, everyone knows Ashoka for liberal education. A lot of people still have a myth that Ashoka is known for liberal arts only, but we offer a program for sciences. There are programs for everyone right after grade 12. Any student who wants to get in, we have courses for them. So now, if I talk about what exactly does Ashoka offers in terms of the courses and the majors and minors that I have in the next few slides, but I'll give you a quick brief in terms of what exactly does liberal education works and how does it is structured in a manner. So basically, first thing is that liberal education gives you the freedom to choose what you want to study. So whenever a student wants to actually apply to any university, at the start of the application process, they have to select the course. But here we have changed the process a little bit, wherein in the application form, what we ask is just an indicative in terms of what the student might be interested in. But that's not something that gets logged and blocked through the way. So this is a 4-year long program. As per the NEP policy, the students have an option to drop off after the 3rd year also. But we highly recommend that the student does all the 4 years with us because the structure is designed in a manner wherein the first 1.5 years is their foundation courses. Now there are a list of 9 foundation courses that we have. So we have a list of 9 foundation courses. These are mandatory for every student to take, irrespective they coming from sciences, commerce, humanities, however it is. And these foundation courses kind of help them in terms of picking the right set of majors and minors. Now, these give them a taste of all the list of majors and minors that we have. And a lot of time, what happens is students have not experienced a lot of subjects in school because they have to pick certain number of subjects in school, and could be a possibility that the student wouldn't have figured out what exactly their interest area is, what exactly is what they're passionate about. So the idea here is the first 1.5 years they focus on their major, on their foundation courses. Alongside, they have an exploration time to themselves. Now, in terms of exploration, say I'm a student who is interested in economics, I'm a student who also likes entrepreneurship, I may also like psychology, creative writing, performing arts, but I'm unsure of what to pick. So I have complete freedom for the first 1.5 years to go attend sessions, of all these programs and figure out what exactly would be the major and minor that I would go ahead with. So, predominantly, the first 1.5 years is dedicated to the foundation courses. And the next 1.5 years, we focus on the majors and minors. Now, if you look at the list right here, we have a list of majors and minors. The ones that has the asterisk signs have certain prerequisites. Like for computer science, you need to have a background of science. For maths, we need to have maths. Physics, again, has a requirement for math. Economics, yes, there are a lot of questions, I think, regarding economics specifically, wherein parents and students have a doubt that we need math in grade 11th or 12th. So yes, we do need math in grade 11th and 12th, but in case a student has not picked math in 11th or 12th, they still have an opportunity to do an academic bridge program with us, wherein they come a little over a period of 1 or 2 months before the actual session starts. They actually do a exam, calculus exam, to then sign up for economics. And once they pass that exam, they're allowed to pick economics as a major or a minor, whatever they feel like. Now, these pure majors can also act as minors for us. So, say I am interested in English and I am interested in, example, computer science. So, either of the subject could be my major, either of the subject could be my minor. A lot of parents and students again have a query in terms of that we don't find this in the application form wherein we can pick two majors and one major as a minor. But then this is at the end of the third semester is when we ask you the final verdict in terms of whatever combination you're moving ahead with. We also have a list of interdisciplinary majors. Now, these are subjects that dwell in well very perfectly together. These are popular course combinations that a lot of students pick from, and these can again be paired with any list of any subjects from the list of minors, and your pure majors can also act as a minor. So the idea is there are no restrictions to picking the number of subjects that we want to go in for. I, as a student, want to pick only one major and spend all my 4 years doing that, I can do that. I want to pick one major, one minor, I can do that. I want to pick one interdisciplinary major and a minor, I can do that. I want to pick one major, two minors. So any possible combination that the student thinks is good enough for them, they can actually go ahead with that. So here is the list of interdisciplinary majors. Now there are certain interdisciplinary majors which popularly a lot of students opt in for, like the highlight last year surprisingly for all of us was computer science and entrepreneurship. Now coming from Ashoka, there's a lot of air saying that it's a liberal arts university, but then there are students who go in for computer science and entrepreneurship as an interdisciplinary major. Economics and finance, of course, is a course highlight. There's also a very interesting set of combination, which is English and creative writing. Now, a lot of students actually look up to literature, creative writing, content writing, and domains like this, industries like this. So, predominantly, these are subjects that can help you pick the right set of new career age options that students look in for. And then again, we have a list of minors and co-curriculars. These are the list of minors that we have. Recently, this year, we have added one more very interesting minor, which is digital health. And these can again be combined with a list of pure majors and the interdisciplinary majors that we looked at. So it's not just that the set of combinations that we have made, you are allowed to opt in for those. You're allowed to explore, and after the third semester decide that what specific subjects work the best for me. Now, as I was telling you about the course structure in the 4 year, the first 1.5 years is dedicated to your foundation courses. The next 1.5 years is your majors and minors. The last 1 year at Ashoka includes a lot of things gets lost in the entire 3 years time frame. So a lot of students want to do research. Research is the DNA of Ashoka. So any specific subject, not just sciences, but students who want to opt in for research can do that in the 4th year at Ashoka. A lot of students do their internships in the fourth year. A lot of students actually go ahead and prepare themselves for higher education. So we are partnered with close to 50 plus universities abroad. And the career development office at Ashoka actually help them write applications for their higher education universities. And also a lot of students who are specifically looking down for placements, they can opt in for placements during the fourth year. So this is a complete mix and the flow in terms of how do we go about in all the 4 years at Ashoka. Talking about the sciences, pure science majors and the interdisciplinary science majors at Ashoka, uh, now a lot of students actually who want to, so basically there's a myth stating that science students opt in for BTech, but the degree that we offer is a BSc degree. There's a vast discrimination between the two. Reason being, tech is more on the technological end. So the students who want to get into uh, the tech end of sciences can actually opt in for BTech, and Ashoka offers only a BSc program. So any student who is more looking on the research part of it, I think in terms of sciences, Ashoka might be the right fit for you. Again, as I explained that what does the course flow looks like specifically for the computer science curriculum, this is how we have structured the 4 years across, wherein the first 1 year is the foundational mathematics, the second is the core science principles, the third is advanced specialization, and the fourth is your capstone experience. Again, coming to the fun and at Ashoka. So, considering this is a fully residential campus, any student who comes to Ashoka has to stay at the campus only. And the primary reason for making this a residential campus and not allowing students to stay outside the campus is that because we understand that academics is important, but then a lot of other things also shape them into a better person. So we have 55 plus clubs and societies on campus, right from a photography club to a dance club to a baking club. These are all student formed and student operated clubs and societies. Again, in case a student feels that there's no club and society matching their interest level, they can actually walk up to the vice chancellor anytime and tell them that we are looking for to set up this specific club and society on the campus, and the university will make sure that you have your matching interest right on the campus. Again, there are sports and fitness facilities on the campus, right from a shooting range to a swimming pool to a badminton court. Everything is right there. So it's a mini world inside Ashoka, wherein the campus was previously a 25 acres campus. Now we have expanded it to another 25 acres. So you have everything right on campus. Interestingly, there's a Blue Tokai, there's a Subway, there's a Domino's to keep the students intact all the time, and you have all your sports, fitness, and clubs and societies as well right there. Coming down to Ashoka being formed by 200 plus founders and donors. So we are not a private university, we're not a public university, we are a philanthropic university. When I say philanthropic, it means giving back to the world. So almost 50% of the entire batch at Ashoka each year comes down to actually on 50% of financial aid. So if you look at the stats on the right side of the screen, you'll see that 44% of students are on scholarship. There are 21% who come on 100% financial aid, and this is when we have a confirmed offer at Ashoka. So again, there are parents and students who say that we want to look at scholarships, but first we look at the application. Once we have a confirmed offer is when we open the financial aid forms for you. And any student or parent who is looking for any kind of FinEd, there's a straight grid to it. Also, there are a few more scholarships that we have introduced this year, wherein we have the special merit scholarship. You get a 100% tuition fee waiver, and the qualifying criteria is on the right side of the screen. Again, this is a special merit scholarship, and the achiever merit scholarship is a bit different, which is specifically for the CBSE, ICSE, and the IE. SC students. Now, this can be combined again with the need-based scholarships at Ashoka. For the need-based scholarship, there's a grid to it. I'll just put it down on the screen. This is what the need-based scholarship looks like. There's a straight grid. Whichever bracket the parent falls into, there's a specific percentage of a fee waiver that they get. And this towards the right side is what the self-paid amount comes down to. Now, additional to this, we have introduced in the previous slide the other two merit and the special merit scholarships that we have for students. So almost 50% of the batch comes down on some kind of scholarship or FINED, whichever works better for them. So this is what we have. And also for the exceptional students, considering that we don't want to term ourselves only as a liberal arts university, again, we have came up with an exceptional scholarship for the science students, wherein we are looking at 100% scholarship on tuition and residence, specifically for computer science, physics, biology, chemistry, and maths. Students who opt in for these pure majors, or maybe any set of interdisciplinary major that they want to look at. Looking at the diversity at Ashoka, so the campus is very diverse. We have students not just from India, but from there are international students on board as well. So there are 28% students in the previous batch who were from different countries. There are students from 400 plus schools in India. There's a specific geographical and a cultural diversity and a gender diversity that we look at each year to make sure that there's a proper mix of students, and students just don't learn from in the classroom, but then they learn from the experiences of students who are on board from different sets of the country. Looking at how does the admission process works, first is our application process. Our applications are open right now. We are in the round one. The round one closes on the 26th of November, and this is what the process looks like. I think a lot of parents would have already, and students would have already started their applications, and you might know the process already. In case not, you can always take the screenshot of the screen right here. And now next I'll take you to what the timelines look like, which is more important right now, because the round one is at the end. We are towards the end of round one, and the last submission deadline looks at 26 November as a date, and the assessment is on the 7th of December. So with here coming to the screen, I think I have talked a lot for like good 15-20 minutes. I've briefed you about what exactly Ashoka offers. Now I would like the parents and students, in case they have any questions, doubts in terms of the campus, in terms of what the application looks like, we can always have their questions open.
Sure, Harshita, sure. Thank you for that quick and a very focused idea on the Ashoka Admit 2026. Yes, parents, whoever has questions, please raise your hands, and I'll request you to unmute as soon as I see your raised hand. Please go ahead and raise your hands, and you can shoot your questions. Yes, Mr. Sarit, can you please go ahead with your query?
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to understand, you have different rounds. So the number of seats in each round is same, or like it's like first round and then only leftover seats are there for round 2 and round 3?
The specific number of seats at Ashoka. Last year we took in a batch size of close to 850 students, and we plan to expand that batch size also. So every round has equal and fair chances for each and every student, but there's no definition in terms of that. We're looking at taking in 150 students in round 1, 150 in round 2. There's nothing around this. So the idea here is that in case we feel that round 1 we got a good number of applications and there are good quality of students, we might take a lot of students in round 1, but it's not like we'll not take round 2 and round 3 that much. So we are open to increasing the batch size in case we find that the quality of students is great and we can accommodate them on campus, but over 1,000 students is what we are looking at across the 4 rounds. So I hope this answers your questions, and every round has fair and equal chance for a student to get in. What predominantly we are looking at is the student profile. And again, coming down to the student profile, there are 5 factors that we look at. We look at their academic scores, we look at their non-academic engagements, we look at their essays, we look at their aptitude, and there's an interview that we take. So all 5 things have equal weightage into the entire process. Any student who is good at all 5 things or performs well exceptionally in all the 5 things have fair and equal chances to get in any of the rounds at Ashoka.
Okay, and just one more question. Do you also consider SAT or IELTS, these kind of exams, if a student is from IB board and they have already given these exams?
We do consider SAT scores, but that's not a
Okay.
mandate in the entire process. So if a
Okay.
student has given SAT, they can always go ahead in the application form and select that we've given SAT, and they can put down their scores as well. But that's not a mandate thing, because any which ways, if a student has opted for SAT or any of the other exams, they will still have to do the Ashoka aptitude test, which is a mandate in our process. So SAT scores, yes, you can always go ahead and submit, but you'll have to take the Ashoka aptitude test.
Okay. Just one more, sorry.
Yeah.
So regarding the sciences also, you say that there is no fixed number of seats, right? So if somebody wants to take a major as bio or chem or something, it can be like flexible number of seats for each of these
Absolutely,
schools.
yes. Because sir, we cannot actually take an idea of how many students will opt in for what subjects, because if you look at the application data, students might have felt that they're looking for economics and finance, and they end up doing English and creative writing. So it's very difficult for us to figure out that how many students will opt in for those subjects. So we have a decent idea in terms of what looking at the graph of the last 5-6 years, but then again we have a good number of seats irrespective of student opts in for whatever, and we have the adequate number of faculty to address in case in a batch we find that there are more number of students taking up science, so we've already backup plan for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Right,
welcome.
right, Mr. Hari. You can come back with more questions later. Mr. Haria's daughter is a very probable student for you, Harshita, coming in soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
all the very best.
Yes, iPhone guest is the next person. Please unmute yourself. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Bardali. I saw that environmental sciences are there as a minor. So if students want to take environmental sciences, which subject, do you have the option?
So basically, ma'am, a minor has to be paired with a major here now. So the student has a background of the sciences, arts, or humanities. If you can help me with that, I'll be able to help you in terms of what could be a major and what can be matched as a minor with the
No, any
environmental.
students from IB board. Currently in grade 10. So if the main focus is in environmental science or environmental engineering, so is there any option in Ashoka they can opt for?
Ma'am, they can look at any of the courses from the pure major list, and that can be paired with environmental sciences. So if you look at the pure major list right here, any of these one subject can be paired with environmental science as their minor subject.
Okay.
So, Harshita, just as an extension of the same question, which other parents might have here. So if environmental science is the focus and pure major is something that needs to be taken likely on the sciences side, then they will need to have those subject combinations in their grade 11 and 12. So DP1, DP2 will need to have those subject combinations, right?
Absolutely, yes. Otherwise, they'll have to opt in for a subject which is not from the sciences, but that won't be a relevant thing thereafter.
So, in future, if students wants to go, suppose they can take science, biology, and maths, along with some social sciences and with environmental sciences, so they can opt for, if they want to go for the research, mainly in environmental sciences, so they can go from there.
Yes, they can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Vidya Rajesh Nair, please unmute and go ahead, please. Vidya Rajesh Nair, can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. I had a couple of queries on the course. The management course, the major said there were a double star on that. So I was just wondering if you could elaborate if you have a management major, and and what do you have within the entrepreneurship area. How do you help students? Do you have like a startup ecosystem or a Atal incubation center? How do you help
We do
kids
have
who are management and entrepreneurship focused?
Yes. So basically, ma'am, we have an entrepreneurship incubator right at the campus. And also, if you look at the management program now at Ashoka, this includes predominantly business management, which can be paired with entrepreneurship, which is a minor at Ashoka. Now, for this again, the 2 signs right here is because a lot of students opt in right from sciences and they shift to business management after grade 12. So we are looking here at students who already have some relative subjects in grade 11th and 12th if they're opting in for management, and we're not allowing the science students to jump from sciences right to management is the idea right here. And of course that can be paired with entrepreneurship at a program as a minor at Ashoka and management as a major at Ashoka. Now looking at the incubations at Ashoka, we do have a lot of alums of Ashoka who have their own startups which were started and incubated at the Ashoka incubation cell. So for more details, I can share with you over a WhatsApp the entire documentation of the program on the brief of entrepreneurship and management. But relatively, this is what, in short, I could explain to you.
This would be available on your website, this information, or if you could just share it, Rahulji, share it on the group.
This is right there on the website. So if you go on the website and look at the minors at Ashoka, and if you click on entrepreneurship specifically, you'll find all the details of the entrepreneurship program. Similarly, for the management, if you go to the pure major sections at the Ashoka website, you'll be able to fetch information for the management program.
So if I understood you correctly, what you're saying is that you need to have business management, commerce related subjects in 11th and 12th to be able to opt for a
management program.
Okay. Yeah. What is the class size that you have?
Now considering again we are a liberal education university, there's no definition to a class size. If you look at the foundation courses, they may have class size of 100 students in a subject, and if you look at programs like say sociology and anthropology, that could be a class size of 15 students. So there's no definition to it, but then we maintain a student to teacher ratio which is 1:3. So every 3 students will have 1 teacher to themselves. So
teacher
this is
as in like the major
faculty,
minor teacher, or like a mentor?
The faculty that they're looking at. So say I am picking IR as a program. Now if there are 3 students, there are 3 students who are picking IR, they'll have 1 faculty to themselves.
Okay, so they can reach out to that faculty for any.
And the faculty has their own office hours as well at Ashoka. So and there are teaching assistants also at Ashoka. So now teaching assistants are different and faculty office hours are different. Faculty office hours are open hours wherein they sit in their office for 2 hours daily, and any student can actually walk up to them and have a one-on-one discussion. And they have their own teaching assistants. These are fellows who are in the 3rd and the 4th year at Ashoka, and in case a student needs more of a personal interaction with one of their peers, they can always reach out to them in terms of any doubts in the course or any combination that they're looking at. So any of the 2 options, the student can actually go ahead and seek help for that.
Right. This SAT, is there like a cutoff of which or that you have taken, anything like that, just to get
not necessarily, ma'am. But we say that any score in SAT which is 1400 and above is a good score to submit. But there's no specific cutoff to it.
Right. And last question, Rahulji, thank you
Because
for your patience.
just to add up to the SAT question, that a lot of students might not have performed well in SAT and could do exceptionally well in the Ashoka aptitude test.
Okay.
So we consider either of whatever their performances look like. Also, just to have an idea for everyone right here on the call, the sample paper for the last 3 years of the Ashoka aptitude test are on the website. So you can always go and refer in case a student wants to prep for the aptitude test.
Right. And you said that 25 acres has been added. Just wanted to know any other facilities have been added?
So basically, ma'am, there are new set of residence halls which are active right now in the new section, that another 25 acres have been added. So now we have all the third and fourth year students who have been shifted to the new campus, and the new ones are accommodated in the old campus right now. Now again, there is a Triveni School of Biosciences, which was under construction till the last year, July. And now that is also live on the new campus. So in terms of facility now, for specifically for the sciences and the biosciences, there's an entire building which has research labs and everything. So that school has also been launched now.
There was supposed to be a school of business also to come up. Is that?
Yeah, that is still under process. That's also on the new campus, the new extension of the campus, but that hasn't been started yet.
Thank you so much.
Please go ahead. If you have one or two more questions, I don't see more raised hands right now. Please go ahead. Yeah.
My son attended the Young Scholars program.
Oh.
So just wanted to know if that has any sort of bearing on the admission process or anything.
Yes, I mean, that's not a necessary thing again. But in the application form, we ask that in case you have opted in for a YSP or maybe a Lodha Genius program at Ashoka. So they can always go ahead and select that specific section. And of course, their certificates as well. And I'm not necessarily saying, because a lot depends on the application, the aptitude, the essays and everything. But yes, there's some specific thing that we can look at, because we already, the student might have already met a lot of faculty from Ashoka, and they might give a feedback of the student. So those factors also add up, but predominantly what we look at is the current application, the essays and the
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right. Yeah. So before I move on to Upasana Jain and Sarit's question here, Mr. Sarit's question, just to understand and extend the question on management. So Harshita, are we saying that necessarily science students cannot opt for management major? Students, let's say, who got physics, chemistry, so many permutations, combinations, right? A DP student might have picked up a business management with a physics or a chemistry. That student would be eligible, right, to pick up management?
So basically, if you see right down in the slide, the two asterisks means pending approval. So
approval from?
Approval from the boards as of now. So the board at Ashoka.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are still working on the management program right now. But this is what I stated is the situation right now. This will be added, but that's in the pipeline right now.
Done. All right, great, thank you. And hopefully an MBA school soon coming up on the campus in the coming years. Yeah? Okay, great. Mr. Sarit, if I can take Upasana Jain's question first. She's not asked, and then I'll come to you. Yeah, Upasana Jain, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Hi, Harshita. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Rahul, for having her over. My question is, I thought, you said interiors, but does Ashoka have any design and technology program? I didn't see that, or is it going to have in future? Or...
For now, there's no design program at Ashoka. We have a co-curricular which says fashion design, but that's not, in case you're looking for a major in design at Ashoka, we don't have that as of now.
Okay. Now you said the other question is biosciences, the building, you mean the campus has opened up for biosciences. Were any of those programs there? Like what comes in biosciences? Will you be?
So basically, if a student picks up biology as a pure major,
Okay.
now again, in case a lot of students combine bio and chem, they
Okay.
combine bio and physics, they combine subjects of bio, which is the content of bio. Like
Correct.
bio could be a major, and there's a content in terms of what exactly is included in the bio. So any combination of biochem, biophysics, biopsychology, or bio with computer science, these students have an access to the Bio Triveni labs at Ashoka. But if you're looking at the course content, I'm not a subject expert. So again,
Okay.
you can drop into Rahul the details of the. I'll drop into Rahul
Sure.
the details of the Triveni School of Biosciences and what all does it covers. I have a complete write-up for that.
Okay.
And probably you can read through it. In case you still have questions on that, I can always help you patch up with the faculty of bio. They can have a discussion with you briefly on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So
You're
much,
welcome.
Harshit.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Sarit, please unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to know at what stage the aptitude test happens, and these are all like centers, online tests from home, or the student needs to be there at Ashoka?
Basically, until last year, we had this aptitude test, which was an online aptitude test. This year, which we have shifted this to an offline aptitude test, which would be a center-based assessment. So there will be centers. There are 36 plus centers across the country, and any of the nearest, which I think you are based out of Bombay.
Yeah, Mumbai. Yes.
Yeah, Bombay will of course have one center, and the student will have to reach the center to give the aptitude and the on-spot essay both. So
okay, and all these guidelines
interview again happens online.
So all these guidelines will be provided after we fill the form and submit the form.
Once the submit deadline is over, which is the 26th November, you'll get a communication which will have all the details of the center and how do you go about it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And the aptitude is on the 7th of December.
Okay,
if
now
we are
trying for round. Yeah, we are trying for
if you're going for round 2, that's the 1st of February.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Yes, any other parents want to ask anything else? Okay, there's no question coming in, so I'll come back to what is important for building up the profile, Harshita. If you can help with the Ashoka Horizons, and if you can help with the summer program for students who will be applying to 27 or 28 also.
Sure. So, firstly, looking at the student profiles. Now, Ashoka, if you look at, we have a very holistic admission process, and what we are looking at, not just students who are academically good, but students who are, in short, very holistic in nature. Now, there's a proper mix of things that we are looking at in a student's profile. As I told, that first is your academic scores. We take into account their grade 10th, 11th and 12th academic scores, and 9th, 10th, 11th and the 12th predicted scores as well. So these are the 4 factors academically what we are looking at. Second is their essays. Now there are 2 personal essays in the application form that we are looking at. So the essays, again, there are like last 2-3 years we started seeing a lot of fancy applications. There are students who use AI tools, who seek help from different sources and write their applications. But again, we understand that these essays, a lot of students mistake and say that we're looking at good words, vocab and all of those things. We're not looking at that. We're looking at students writing their essays on their own. It should be very authentic. It should reflect what you are as a person. And again, because this entire application is opened again at the stage of interview, and the interview will ask you questions basis your application. So again, I would highly recommend that the student should write their applications, their essays on their own. And it's not the vocab or the words that we're looking at. We're looking at how differently a student might think on a given topic. The next thing that we look at is their non-academic engagements. Now, there are students who are academically brilliant but hardly have anything in terms of the non-academic engagements. So any non-academic engagement that a student would have done from grade 9 to 12 is acceptable, and it's not mandatory. A lot of students come up with the same query again and again that we don't have a certificate for that specific engagement or a certificate of participation or anything for that specific thing that I would have done. Again, we're not looking at certificates. Anything that you have as a proof, like I have a picture of me doing it, I have a vlog, I have a YouTube thing, a video, or anything, you can actually go ahead and attach that in the application process. Once you submit the application, there's an Ashoka aptitude test. So again, if you look at profile building wise, aptitude is also an important thing to look at. Reason being, the academic rigor at Ashoka is so high that if we've taken a student just basis their application and the aptitude is not being looked at, they might struggle when they actually go about on the academic part at Ashoka. So again, aptitude and the on-spot essay is important. If you look at the entire process, basis the application, the aptitude, and the on-spot essay, we have a shortlisting round. So a lot of students actually write their applications very well, and the aptitude is sometimes happens that they might have not performed very well in the aptitude. So they don't need to worry about it because their academic scores actually back that up for us. So in a case, say we find that the academic score, the application is done very well and the aptitude was not that great, still you will see that they are shortlisted. They could be shortlisted, and after that there's an interview round for the ones who are shortlisted. If they perform well in the interview, there are different kind of decisions that we get given the admission cycle, wherein we have a confirmed offer, conditional offer, wait list, deferral decision, denial. Now again, only once our student has a confirmed offer from Ashoka is when we look at the financial aid and the scholarship process at Ashoka. So profile wise, the student must have all these things right in place. They should have good set of non-academic engagements. They should have good set of academic scores, and essays always play a very important and vital role in the entire process.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Harshita. Parents, if you have any other parents who have any other questions, please raise your hand and I'll request you to unmute as we proceed. Anyone who would want to ask? Yes. So we'll go to it's iPhone again. Yeah, please unmute. Then I will go to Vidya Rajesh now.
So you're mentioning about recommendations or non-mandatory. Is it basically from the school teacher kind of a recommendation, counselor from the school recommendation, or what kind of a letter?
So basically, it's a letter of recommendation that comes from anyone in the professional background. So a school teacher, principal, counselor, or maybe a mentor, or maybe not except from the parents and the relatives, it could come from anyone from the students' professional setup that way. And LOR is not a mandate process right now. So basically, in the application, what we ask is the recommender's detail and the email ID and phone number. Earlier, LOR was a mandate thing, but now we have made it a non-mandate part. In case after we read the application and the aptitude and we feel that we want to get a LOR, we'll reach out to the recommender. In case we feel that we don't need one, we'll never reach out to the recommender. So in the application, the student has to just put in the recommender's detail, and in a case, we'll always reach out to them. But that's not a mandate now. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Right. Yes, Vidya Rajesh Nair, please go ahead.
I've heard a lot about the application itself because people say that it has many sections and questions, and also if you could just break it down a bit, it seems like a quite a thing.
So basically, ma'am, the application is quite a thing. It takes a student close to 8 to 10 days to finish off, because all your academic scores, your mark sheets and everything has to be attached. Then in case you have opted in for SAT, ACT, those scores you have to put in. you have to write 2 essays in the application form. So now these personal essays will again take a lot of time because the students make a rough draft for it, then they make a fair draft for it, and then they go about writing the applications. LOR, only as I specified just before this, that only the recommended detail is what we need. And again, in the non-academic engagement section, they have to attach the non-academic. So say I participated in an MUN, or maybe I went ahead with a debate. I was leading the debate club at my school. Any of these engagements, I'll have to actually write down things for that. What
Okay.
was my exact role in that, and then attach the relevant documents for that as well. So yes, the application takes a lot of time, and the breakdown is this specific sheet only. So you can always take a screenshot of this. Again, each year, considering I think your child is in grade 10 right now, things might change a little in the next 1 or 2 years, because each year we keep doing adding, reducing the points here and there. So might change, but this is predominantly layout that we look at.
So how far back would you look at non-academic engagements?
Grade 9
like
to 12.
9 to 12. Okay.
From grade 9 to 12.
Okay.
In case a student has done something which is exceptionally good and you feel that you can actually highlight that, and they would have done that thing in grade 8 also, so that can be added, but primarily from grade 9 to 12 is what.
May I just add here, Harshita, that if there is continuity, let's say on something from grade 6 and the student is continuing till
Yeah.
grade 12, then
Hmm.
that continuity is something that will be fetching a little more brownie points than just stating
Exactly.
9, 10 and 11. Great. Thank you. Anything else, Vidya Rajesh Nair, before I go to Shruti Bhimani?
No, all good. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Shruti Bhimani, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Shruti Bhimani, can you hear me?
Yes. Now
Yeah.
I could. Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a question on personal essays, and this is to you also, Rahul and Harshita. Uh, uh, how does the child ace the personal essay thing? Like, is there a are they supposed to do some classes, or what is it? How do you look at personal essays? Because they are so tied up with their academic timetable and so many deliverables in terms of schools, and especially with IB children. Any shortcut or a little hack that they can use to ace this particular section?
May I
Just-
answer this, Harshita?
No hack for this, yeah. But yeah, I would say that now, ma'am, I understand that the IB students are very tied up and they have a lot of other things on their plate to do. But if you look at personal essays, again, there's a myth that it has to be very fancy, bougie, or whatever words that I could use. But it's not the case. It should be very authentic. Anything that I feel personally, my viewpoint could be a little different from yours. And the student first should go ahead and make a rough draft of it. Rough draft in terms of whatever things they actually want to highlight. And then once they have a rough draft to it, they can always go to their school counselor, to Rahul, to the parents as well. And then they can sit down and discuss in terms of what does things that a parent might feel, because they are 16, 17, 18-year-old, and there's a huge difference. Some things could be a possibility that I as an 18-year-old would think that this is right enough to this is good enough to write, but you as a parent might think that this is not good enough to write. So again, give them the complete liberty to do and feel whatever they want to write in, and there's no specific hack or a shortcut or an easy way through it. Whatever they feel is good enough for them to write, let them do that. Just that, yeah. This is a question wherein I don't have answers. I go blank.
So may I add, Harshita, here
Yeah.
that in this chat right now there are 3 parents who have empaneled me for the profile building and personal mentoring. And yes, there are no hacks. I completely agree with Harshita. But largely the idea is to get the child identify what he or she is really good at, passionate about in those 2 or 3 areas, and then you structure and build up on that profile going
And
ahead.
while they write the same thing in the application and in the interview, we open the application, we see their eyes lighting up. because they have actually written that thing and they're so passionately talking about it again afterwards. So so basically the entire idea is, if the student has not written the essays, now again explaining, if I've not written something and I've just read and gone through it, explaining that in the interview would be a challenge for me. So that's the reason we tell the parents and the students and everyone that actually set them free and let them write whatever they want to, so that they can have that entire edge in the interview and speak about whatever they've written in the application.
Shruti Bhimani, does that answer your question?
Yes, I understood.
Okay, great. Chalo. Any other parents want to ask questions? Please raise your hands and you'll be requested to unmute and you can go ahead. Anybody else? As it is, we have overshot the time. Sorry, I'm extending by a few minutes, Harshita.
That's fine.
Yeah, but anybody else has any other questions? Anything else you would want to ask? Please raise your hand and we can shoot a question to Harshita, who will help us understand it in greater detail. Okay, cool. Nobody has. Okay, we have Shruti Bhimani again. Yes, Shruti Bhimani, can you please go ahead?
So, just one quick question. If a child decides to enroll in Ashoka, say for 3 years, 4 years, or whatever course he decides, what are the internship opportunities within those 3-4 years that Ashoka offers or helps the child do in summers or all of that? Or that is completely the child's thing, or is the university helping the child?
Yeah, we do
It's-
help them. So the career development office looks at their set of majors and minors that they're moving ahead with, and they
Okay.
actually find out the internship options matching their interest and their combination that they have opted in for. Also, internships carry some amount of credits in the entire system. So yes, it's a part of the curriculum. So the university will only help the student get the internship and go about it. In case a student feels that I want to find an internship on my own, the career development office will still help them match the credit requirements and go about it. So yes, there's help from the university's end in finding the internships.
Okay, so by help you mean is that they will help shortlist the type of
Find it.
companies
Yeah.
and all of that, right? They'll help match the requirement to this, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Alright.
Yes, any other parent? Any final questions you would want to shoot? Otherwise, Harshita, I'll come back to one question that I always want to ask on parents' behalf. A lot of them who haven't been able to join today. Some idea on the summer program. You're expecting it to be launched by December, January, and the Horizons program. Both of them, please, if you can help us
So
understand.
the YSP program and the Horizons, we don't have the details yet, but that will happen again in the same timeline. By December, we'll have the details of the YSP and the Horizon. Every year for the YSP program, the Young Scholar program at Ashoka, we keep adding a lot of new courses and new programs to it. So if you saw last year, there was an entrepreneurship YSP course that we had. Again, this year we plan to add more. So again, the details will be out shortly. By first week of December, I'll keep you posted on the YSP and Horizons both, whatever we are doing this year. And once we have that, I think the application for that will also start from December only. So in the month of May and June, any student who wants to opt in for that can go ahead with the YSP and Horizons. I think there's a question from a parent.
Yeah, the Horizons program, I don't know about that. If you can just quickly tell us what that
So,
is.
that's similar to the YSP program, Horizons.
Okay, so just broadly to tell you, Horizons is Ashoka's online program, happens over weekends. And they had last year, I think they had some 16 or 20 options to choose from. Supposed to be a very solid program to identify deeper understanding, learning, knowledge transfer in particular areas like psychology and cosmology and a lot of other things. And I would strongly recommend for anybody who wants to build up good. Yes, Harshita, you back?
Connection issue. So, am I audible?
Yeah, Harshita, please go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, again, if you look at the Horizons program at Ashoka, this is for grade 9, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And again, the details are not out yet. But if you're looking at the details of the Horizons program. Hello.
Yeah, Harshita, there's a little bit of a lag in between what you spoke, but essentially we are saying the details will be out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll just wait for that. Great. Any other questions from anybody else? All right. So thank you so much, Harshita, for taking the time out this Sunday and answering parents' questions. Parents, thank you for being a part of this conversation. I hope a lot of your questions are answered. We'll continue inviting more universities. There is BITS Law School, potentially BITS Design School. We are talking to 3 more liberal arts and new age universities to be a part of the conversation on Sundays. So just stay tuned and we will keep getting you more opportunities to interact with new universities. Thank you so much, all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. Thank you.